Hello guys, this is my first YouTube video. Before I get into the video, I would like to briefly introduce myself. My name is Alexander and I am an actuarial student, and I've decided to try out YouTube while I complete my actuarial studies. The purpose of my YouTube channel will be companies. I will be analyzing companies in the American share market. I will talk about their financials and I will express my opinion about them. And hopefully you guys benefit from my opinion. The first company I would like to analyze is Abbott Laboratories. Abbott Laboratories is a medical company. It produces medicine and medical devices, and then it sells them globally. The reason why I have decided to analyze this company first is because this company has had substantial growth during the pandemic. The company has beaten all four of its quarterly earnings last year, and as you can see, the expectations for this company are high. I would like to talk about the financial reports this company has produced. These figures come from the SEC website. They depict the annual results of Abbott Laboratories. The first thing I would like to talk about is the company's current assets. The company has increased its current assets from 14,600 to 20,400 during the 3-year period from 2019 to 2021. Now, the reason why current assets has increased, one of the reasons why it has increased is because cash has increased from 3,800 to 6,800. But a more substantial increase occurred in accounts receivable. Accounts receivable has increased from 1,500 to 6,400. Now, this is a good thing because there is more demand and sales of the company's products. However, there is a problem with accounts receivable. Accounts receivable essentially means that the company is giving away its products as a loan. The company receives a promise that they will receive the money in the near future. As investors, we have to question this. Who will pay for this product? Could the buyer potentially default on the payment, refuse to pay back the money they have promised to pay? Such a substantial increase in accounts receivable indicates to me that Abbott Laboratories is selling its products to large companies. In this case, these big customers are most likely governments. Again, we have to question ourselves if these big customers potentially refuse to pay back the money they owe to Abbott Laboratories. The most likely reason why accounts receivable has increased, why Abbott Laboratories has experienced such a rise in accounts receivable, is because of its latest product, the COVID tests. I would like to talk a bit about these COVID tests. As you may know, the demand for these COVID tests is substantially high. However, the supply is very small. This means that Abbott Laboratories could demand a high price for their product. They could demand a substantial amount of money for their products. However, as I've said previously, Abbott Laboratories is selling these products to large customers, to governments. It is entirely possible that governments could restrict Abbott Laboratories. They could restrict Abbott Laboratories' earnings, for example, by implementing a maximum price. What this means is that instead of selling the product at price P, as you can see from the graph, they could potentially be forced to sell their product at the maximum price a government implements. What this means is that Abbott's profits, its producer surplus, could potentially be reduced. What this means is that the theoretical earnings could potentially what this means is that Abbott's profits could potentially not be as high as initially expected. Another thing I would like to discuss is Abbott Laboratories' financial activities. As you can see, Abbott Laboratories' financial activities have substantially decreased from negative 10,000 to negative 2,700. This decrease indicates to me that Abbott Laboratories is not buying as much shares as it initially did. Abbott Laboratories is essentially saving money, and as a consequence, there's a much higher supply of Abbott shares on the market. Now, what this means is that there will be a higher supply of Abbott shares on the market, and therefore there will be the price of Abbott shares will decline. Now, the price of Abbott shares has already declined. It has fallen from 140 to 120, but it's possible. There's a high chance that another decrease will occur. Now, this is a rating table I created, and personally, I would place Abbott Company in the careful section. Yes, the company has experienced substantial growth and the share price has increased, but there are some, as I've mentioned, there are some negatives here. The current assets substantially increased because of accounts receivable. And again, we have to, as investors, we have to take into account the chance that Abbott will not receive the money back from its accounts receivable. The other thing is that Abbott's share price may decrease because Abbott Laboratories themselves are not buying as much of their own shares as they used to. For this reason, I'm placing them in the careful section. That being said, Abbott Laboratories is a large company. It produces products which will be bought by nations all around the world. And for this reason, I do believe that it is a safe company. But I do not think that they will experience such growth in the later years after the pandemic decreases. In any case, this was my first video. Hopefully you enjoyed my video. If you did, give it a like and subscribe. And I will produce more of these videos in the future.